If you've ever wanted to go backpacking with your kids, maybe you've done it before, but you want to feel more confident, or maybe it's something that's totally new, this episode is going to be really helpful. I sat down with Stephanie, known as the Backpacking Mom on Instagram. She's a mom of 4 who started chasing mountains when her kids were little and has over 15 years of experience hiking, traveling, camping, and backpacking with her family. We get super practical in this conversation. Stephanie walks us through how she packs. We go super deep here. She talks about backpacks, shelter, sleep systems, clothing, food, safety gear, all the things. So we even jump into weight management and more specific things that she packs along with the kids. We also talk about how she handles sleep in the backcountry with babies, what she does when toddlers aren't into hiking, and how she chooses routes that work for her family. I think you'll really appreciate the encouragement that she has to give and her real life stories. Welcome to Let's Go Outside, a podcast bringing moms together to chat about the raw, unfiltered reality of doing the exploring we love after having kids. No matter your comfort level of adventuring with the little ones, this is a space to have honest conversations about the real struggles of getting out the door with the kiddos. I'm Danica, a mama living in a small mountain town who's totally obsessed with healthy food and taking my kids outside every single day. I professionally guided backpacking trips in the Canadian Rockies, and I'm certified as a Leave No Trace instructor. On the show, you'll hear real experiences from other moms, plus tips on gear, trail snacks, and the best practices in the wilderness. Whether it's hiking, camping, backpacking, skiing, or traveling the world you want to do more of, this is your place to learn, find encouragement, and strip away any comparison. Come embrace both motherhood and the outdoors. Stick around. This is your place. Welcome to the Outdoor Mom Club. Welcome to the Let's Go Outside podcast. I'm so excited to welcome Stephanie McNulty to the show today. She is such a fun mom that shares beautiful content on Instagram. I just love that it's totally her. Does not shy away from sharing something that she might know people might not be all about, or stuff that, is just real, raw, open. And so I love that about your content, Stephanie. And I have to tell you that I interviewed somebody else that said, you need to get Stephanie on the podcast. So I don't know if you know Kirsty Pardini, but she came on a while back and talked about rock climbing. And so she was like, you need to come on. And then when you were on the sailboat with Eleanor, I was like, oh my gosh, these worlds all collide. I'm so excited just how the internet all brings us together and connected with all these outdoor moms, which I know you were just, you can mention that, but I know you were just on the sailboat with your family, and Eleanor was on the podcast just a few weeks ago. So I just love how small the world is. But welcome here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, of course, to talk about all things backpacking, but you're right. I know both those women, and it is funny how it can be like a small adventure mom world where we all kind of find each other and hype each other up. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you're doing crazy things outside with your kids too. That's amazing. And yeah, we loved meeting Eleanor and getting to spend a whole week with her. And yeah, it's been so much fun to connect.
Yeah, I just love it so much. It's so fun. Eleanor is the sweetest. But would you share, Stephanie, who's in your family, a little bit more about yourself and how you got into traveling and backpacking? I want to know what makes you keep going out there.
Yeah, so I'm Stephanie. I'm married to Brendan. We have 4 kids that are a variety of different ages. My oldest is 17, and then I have a 13-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old son, and a 10-month-old baby. So we're doing all of the things. And I think what's really interesting is I wasn't really raised going outdoors. I was raised in Massachusetts, not a ton of mountains around. And as a young mom, I had my oldest quite young. I was living in Washington State, which is just filled with beautiful places and mountains. And I remember looking across like the ocean, the water, and seeing these mountains. I'm just like, we gotta get in them. We got to get near those mountains. So just kind of little by little exploring them and taking weekend adventures, which turned into like our first backpacking trip. And since then, I've just been hooked. Yeah, I always say I started chasing mountains as a young mom, and I haven't stopped since.
Love that. And I think there's something about it. Like we get outside with our kids and we're like, this is the way we need to parent.
You're like, oh.
Absolutely. I mean, we joke, we have two rambunctious boys, the 17-year-old and the 4-year-old, and we say the best version of James and Hudson is outside James and Hudson. Like they can just run wild, be free, and do all the boy things.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, today we're going to talk about backpacking and dive deep into that. We haven't gone deep into backpacking yet on the Let's Go Outside podcast. But to start us off, would you share one of your favorite stories from a backpacking trip that you have done?
Yeah, I have. Gosh, this was really hard to pick just one story, but we were backpacking kind of closer to home. We usually do a early season like shakeout trip every year. It's pretty mellow and we just kind of see what gear is still working. Our kids have gotten older, like what gear needs replaced. So this is just a really low mileage trip, and it happened to be in the middle of wildflower season. So we set up camp, we have a great time, and in the morning I remember my oldest was just like so involved and so helpful, like getting the fire going. And then my daughter at the time was like, hey, do you want to come up this little ridge with me? And I was kind of like, no, I really don't want to. Like inside, I was like, oh, I'm like really enjoying this morning, sipping coffee. I was like, no, okay, I'll go up. And we ended up going up this mountainside, and again, just like covered with wildflowers. And she made the most beautiful wildflower bouquet ever. And like the sun rose and the light, it was like out of a storybook. And I just always think about the times like, what if I just said no and like shooed her off? I wouldn't have that core memory, but it's so simple. And we've been to so many different places, but that memory really sticks with me because it was so simple. Just my oldest making the fire and my daughter just wanting to go on a walk and pick flowers, and end up being really special.
Yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful what happens when we say yes to our kids. There's so many times where we can't, but then when we can, it's like, oh, wow, that's so beautiful.
No, there was no reason not to say yes. I'm so glad I took that moment because it was just such a good memory.
I love that. Jumping right in, would you give us an overview on how you do packing for a trip? I know it's a tough balance between bringing too many things, but also wanting to be prepared, and we don't want our packs to be so heavy. I mean, I saw your reel that you posted that you did the Tetons with your toddler and all your stuff strapped on, and you need the essentials, but you also don't want to carry too much. So if we could dive in and talk more about this.
Yeah. So packing, I think is really intimidating still. For me, it can just be like, oh, I don't want to pack, or you don't want to forget something. But I mean, I think first and foremost, we have a really great list. So we pack off a list all the time, and we use the same list, and we just go through and check mark it. In fact, it's laminated, and we just check things off so that we don't forget anything. And it's been super helpful. So I would highly recommend making a list when you're packing. And as far as the specifics go, I mean, of course, you need a pack for all your things, but I also think that I'm going to say some of what I recommend, but don't get bogged down in specific brands or specific gear. When I first started, I went with a non-backpacking pack and like a car camping tent that I didn't even have the matching fly to. And I packed canned food and like a gallon of water because I didn't have anything to sterilize it with. So yes, the gear is important, but also you can just make it work if you really want to go and experience it. So I just want to throw that little caveat
And when
in.
you're starting, you don't know what you love or what you're really going to want in your gear yet. So I think that's like an awesome thing to remember. And I can see that some people, they go backpacking and you might not have the exact gear that you want, and it might make the trip harder. But I think the people that really want to be out there will see those beauty in it and be like, yes, okay, I love this, but my backpack sucked. And like, I know that I want maybe like a swivel waist situation. That's maybe more beyond, but a random little accessory thing. But yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah, you won't know what is important to you until you just go. Like, for example, I'd rather have a heavier pack and have a few luxury items, like a really comfortable sleep setup, because I'm getting older and I really need a good sleep. But in the beginning, lighter and faster, and I could sleep anywhere, so it really didn't matter. So you won't know what's important to you and what your pain points are until you just go. But that being said, I mean, yes, of course, you need a backpack, something to put stuff in. I used Gregory Packs. In fact, my whole family does. And we have used Gregory Packs. Full disclosure, I have worked with them before. And so they have provided packs for my family. But I stand by them. They carry so amazingly. They have a whole kids line. It's amazing. It's like the Cadillac of backpacking packs as far as I'm concerned. But basically, and with kids packs, it really doesn't matter. You want to go in, and this is for adults and kids, probably over the age of 8. You go into somewhere like REI where you can literally try on the pack, put weight in it. They have sandbags in the store. Someone will help fit you so you get the right size. A comfortable pack is so important. So just because Gregory packs are comfortable for me, there's Dueter, Osprey, like the REI brand. There's so many different brands out there. You want to go in and really try it on and see what fits right on your hips, on your shoulders, and do the same for older kids because, yeah, you don't want your kids complaining. You want them to have the most comfortable setup. You don't want to give them a reason to be whining. So I recommend that for kids too. Yeah, around the age 8 or above.
That's so good. Yeah, my friend told me the other day, she was like, I tried on all the kid carrier backpacks and I didn't like any of them. And then she said, the only one that I didn't try was Osprey made a new kid carrier pack. And so then she was like, but I couldn't, she lived in a small town. And I think she said she just found out they carried it at this one store. So she went in and tried that one and she was like, it was totally different than their other version. And so I think that's something to think about too. Like they have the different models and yeah, that was the one and she found it and she was like, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, that is huge because I, for one, hate the Osprey kid carrier. I've tried different, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But other people, with the Dueter, that's what I use. They hate the Dueter. You just have to go try it on, even if you can with your kiddo in the store, walk around, do several laps, see how it feels. Everyone's so different. Torsos, lengths are different. So yes, backpack and kid carrier alike. You want to really try them on. If you can't get into a store, local mom groups, like put it out there. Can I borrow this? Most moms are pretty willing to do that, to let you try it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for long trips, right? Like that's really one of the most important things.
Yes, comfort is key. So yeah, that kind of covers backpacks. As far as tents go, again, I would say just go with what you have. We have tried several different arrangements of tents, the old discussion of do you use two-person tents for a 4-person family or one 4-person tent. I have found the one 4-person tent, if someone always wants to sleep with someone else and I also am very nostalgic. I just like my whole family to be in the tent together. There's something about waking up in the morning all together. I actually crammed 5 of us into a 4-person tent last summer just because I insisted. So that's what I think. But yeah, I would say whatever one you can. Deep and Cheap is a great website. I have a $70 4-person tent I still use. In fact, I just was out with it with friends this weekend. And then I have a more expensive, lighter version from Big Agnes. It's the Copper Spur. REI makes one that I got on sale once with their I don't think you guys in Canada don't have REI. Isn't it MEC or something similar?
Yeah, we have MEC.
Okay. But yeah, on the sale, I was able to get a tent. Yeah, it really does not have to be fancy as you get more into it. And you want to go further. I think weight counts for quite a bit. But backpacking with kids is just it's a heavy endeavor. And then for sleeping bags and pads, I think a lot of things that people miss is the R value on a sleeping pad. You think of air mattress is whatever. You really want to be looking at that R value. It's how much insulation it has. So higher the R value, the warmer it will keep you. And even for summer trips, I try to keep the R value above 3. So if we're going to be really cold, I have a sleeping pad that's R value 6, and that keeps us so toasty. Because you don't realize it when you're sleeping on air, that air cools down and you can be really cold, and the ground is very cold. So you can really get cold from like the ground up or what you're sleeping on. And again, you don't want to give your kids a reason to complain in the middle of the night if they're cold. But I found a lot of my gear again on like Facebook Marketplace, gear consignment stores, that for used gear. And again, you want to try it out, see like, okay, do I sleep cold or hot in the backcountry? And really get a feel for what's important to you. And then you can kind of upgrade later. It took me probably 6 years to get like all of the gear that I have now kind of dialed into what I really like. And I started with ridiculously heavy things, hand-me-down things, giant sleeping bags. So happy to talk about specific gear, but again, I just feel like it's so important to just go. Just figure it out as you go, and what's important to you along the way.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really important point, what you said. Like we often think about the sleeping bag, but it's often like, what are we sleeping on top of? The ground is often usually usually really cold, and like the air is really super cold. And so there's things that you can do, like the sleeping pad is so important. And yeah, and I think that for my kiddos too, like I'll like to layer a ton of down jackets maybe underneath them if I don't have a super good sleeping pad, or just those little things, or lay out all our clothes underneath us if we don't have a super good sleeping pad, or we realize that on our second night or something like that, all those things. But yeah, that is a really good point that you made, is the ground is cold, and sometimes it's not layers on top of us, it's layers under us.
Right, you don't realize how much heat that is you're absorbing from you. The other super budget-friendly option that my friend actually told me is something called Reflectix. It's like, I would say it's almost insulation. You can get like a whole roll of it at Home Depot for like $20. And if you just cut it out like the shape of your sleeping pad or tent floor, it's actually great for like sitting on outside too. It's fantastic. That'll up your R value significantly. I notice a difference. You put that just on your tent floor, put your sleeping pad over it, it'll really insulate. So I highly recommend that if, yeah, I mean, backpacking gear is expensive. So I have used that before on really cold trips. It's super lightweight. You just strap a roll to it on the bottom of your pack and you're good to go. So that has been a really good tip that I learned from her.
Is that like the same size? Is it like a foamy, one of those?
Even smaller. It's
Okay.
really thin. I want to say, like the stuff that you put in your windshield, kind of
Oh
when you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
the sun to get in. It's kind of like that. But yeah, it's literally just called Reflectix. It's so thin, thinner than like a foam pad and lighter, way lighter. So it's just this really easy thing you can pack along for like almost no consequence and makes such a big difference. So was like revolutionary for us.
That's a great hack. That's awesome.
Yeah, I should make a reel about that.
I love that.
But yeah, and I think what you mentioned too, clothing is super important. I would absolutely, there's places where you can skimp, right? Like if you don't have the best sleeping pad or bag, that's okay. Yeah, layer your clothing or put this Reflectix underneath your sleeping pad, whatever. But I think clothing is actually something that is worth investing in. A solid pair of base layers. Merino wool, I live and die by. We all wear it. We all have several pairs of it. It just is the best fabric. It's like miracle. I mean, it doesn't stink. Like you can spill stuff on it, you can sweat in it. It really doesn't have a ton of odors. It dries really quick. It's moisture wicking, so if your kids do get wet, it doesn't keep that water like close to your body. And you can wear it in the winter. I put them in the summer because again, it's moisture wicking and breathable, so keep them warm when it's cold out, and it keeps them like airy and light and fresh when it's hot. Like it's something we use for year round. So it can be spendy, but again, you can get it used a lot of the times, but that is definitely something I would recommend like investing in for sure.
So good. And how many pairs of clothes do you usually bring on a typical like 2-3 night trip?
For me, I am very minimal. So I'll bring a hiking outfit that I wear the whole time, and then a sleeping outfit. Definitely wear underwear for all of the days, a fresh pair, and about 2 pairs of
Makes
socks. So one that I'm wearing and one that I'm sleeping in. And then I'll usually have a puffy jacket, so like a down jacket or something insulating. If there's gonna be rain, I'll bring like an outer shell, like a waterproof layer. That can also be a plastic poncho. It doesn't need to be a waterproof shell, but something waterproof. And then for my kids, I usually bring up that by one because you just never know. So they'll have their hiking outfit that they're wearing, something that they sleep in, and then like one extra just in case. And then yes, underwear for all days and probably 3 pairs of socks. One they're wearing, one they're sleeping in, and one like just in case.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. Have you heard of the Bugaboos?
Huh? Yes.
Yeah, so we did the Bugaboos, and I had just potty trained my child, and we only brought 2 sets. So we just hung out in the tent, and then naked for a long time till it dried. And it was a very rainy, like we were camping in a puddle, but like, one of those mistakes where you set up your tent and you're like, oh, this was a way bigger dip if it rained so hard. So that was a wet trip.
Yes. So when we lived in Washington, we camped on the coast a lot, and Washington can be quite rainy as well. And that was the other thing. It's like once they get wet, or if you're by water, it's so great if you're just like, okay, like don't get your clothes wet. But A, you don't want to do that because that's the whole point, right? It's fun. And then B, like they're just gonna get wet. Like they just are.
Yeah.
And when your kids are playing, it's not like you and I, like, yeah, we can sit down, we can stand up, like, but we're not like rolling around, like wading through things. So yeah, I always bring an extra because they're just, they're just gonna do the things.
Yeah. Look at the forecast, know your kids, and go for it.
I think we've all been there. I've definitely had like trips where I'm like, well, I guess we're just wet.
Oh man, lesson that we have to learn again and again. What are you loving in backpacking food these days? What are you doing? Are you doing the little sachets where you add water? Are you dehydrating stuff? What are you doing?
So I can go back and forth. I mean, if it's just me planning a trip, and especially now that I have a baby, I always think about having a baby is like -1 help. Because if you're with your spouse or friend or whoever, someone's doing the things, right? Like setting up tent, setting up camp, and someone has this baby because there's really not a lot of safe places to put them down or they just want to be held. So, and if it's just me solo, it's like, how easy can I do this and can I do it one-handed? So the dehydrated meals like Mountain House, Backpackers Pantry, I tend to do those a lot just because it's literally add hot water and like sit, and that's it.
Yeah.
My husband really loves to like see just how gourmet he can eat in the middle of nowhere. And he's been known to like build a pizza oven, make biscuits over a fire. I believe once he packed in avocados and made fresh guacamole. So we are not the same. But yeah, when it's just me, I am not, you won't catch me dehydrating my own food. It's a miracle if we just get on the trail. So like ramen, yeah, the dehydrated meals that you just add water, that's what you'll find me doing. Or the instant mac and cheese for kids, like that's always a thing. What are they going to eat? Yeah, we just do the instant mac, add boiling water, let it sit, and it's good enough.
Love that. And do you have a jet boil or what kind of stove are you taking?
Yeah, so the jet boil makes a huge version. It's called the Sumo. It can boil, I want to say like 1.5 or 2. And so if you have a big group or a big family, it's better than like doing like rounds of water. So we do that. Or we also have a little like pocket rocket that just connects to your fuel and like a little tea kettle. We've used that before too.
That's awesome. I definitely tend more to your husband's cooking tendencies, but I appreciate both. It's like what's gonna get us out there, right? And I think that's more what I'm thinking lately, where I'm like, my husband's super busy this summer. I'm gonna have to do trips alone. I am definitely on that team of like, let's just add the water. Like that's gonna get us out there.
Yeah, because backpacking isn't easy. Like, there's nothing about it that's easy, right? Like, when your kid has to go to the bathroom, it's like this whole ordeal. Like, okay, let's go find a spot. Let's dig a hole. I gotta be there and help you. And even water, like, okay, we gotta find our water source. We gotta filter the water. We gotta put it in a bottle. It's just like everything feels hard. And depending on how far you've hiked, what mood you're in, what mood your kids are in. Sometimes if you have an elaborate dinner, it can really put you over the edge. So I usually aim for easy. If my husband's with me, it's great, and he can do all the hard cooking that he wants to. But yeah, when you're solo, I tend to just go path the least resistance.
That's good. It's great to hear that from you. I love that because that's encouraging.
The other thing I just discovered on this trip is the Biscoff cookies that you get like on an airplane. They make like Oreo like cookies where they have the Biscoff cookies and then like a filling on the inside. And those were delicious. I think that's a new
Wow.
backpacking staple along with the
That's
nerd
amazing.
clusters. So yeah, those are kind of our
Nerd
back.
clusters like the little candies, like the little
Yes.
colorful ones. Oh, okay, it's so fun. Okay.
And that's great bribery too. If you're like, just keep walking, I'll give you some candy. So
Yes. We all
yeah.
need to have like our hiking mom snack that the kids are like, the hiking mom, the hiking snack.
Exactly.
I'm trying to
And
do
I
that.
am not above bribery both for myself and for my children. Where I'm like, okay, at mile whatever, I'll just have a little treat. And then, it's actually very motivating for them too.
Even though
Another,
you planned the whole trip, you know?
yes, I need a treat.
Yes. Like I chose to do this. I want to be here, but also I have to take care of the kids too. And this is hard and I want to be here. Yeah.
Right, right. We do this for fun. But no, I know this is also one of your questions, but my friend Shireen, she has this thing where she sets a timer either for like 15 or 20 minutes. And so as long as you're hiking, when that timer goes off, you get a treat. And it's something small, like a finite number. Like I think she did like 3 M&Ms. So like every 15, 20 minutes, if the timer goes off and you're hiking, you get your treats. It's like very
That's awesome.
motivating.
So are you saying like if your kid is sitting on the ground, they don't get a treat? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, it's kind
Okay.
of, oh, you're not hiking right now. Or like, oh, you got to keep hiking because when the timer goes off, like it's going to go off soon.
Yeah,
Gotta be
that's
hiking.
great. That's a great tip right there. I love that. Okay, let's kind of jump into our last category for packing, which is safety. What are you
Yes.
packing for safety?
So, I mean, of course, it just depends, like environmentally, what are your risks? Like, what are you up against? And that is going to be area dependent. Here in Idaho, we have rattlesnakes. We do have some black bear. We don't have grizzlies. There's other humans, of course. And then there's, of course, the risk of like injury or illness or like unexpected weather. When I'm planning a trip and it can be anxiety producing. I think that's a barrier for a lot of moms or families is like the anxiety around being in the middle of nowhere with kids, either by yourself or even with your partner. So I try to think of all the risks that there are and then mitigate each and every one of them, right? So I've armed myself with knowledge about what to do with a rattlesnake bite, and very comfortingly enough, very few people die from rattlesnake bites. So that's comforting. As far as other animals like bears or other larger predators, I carry bear spray if I'm going to be in an area that has bear. I've never really felt the need to carry a weapon of any kind. I know some women do. I have never been in a situation where I needed one or felt sorry that I didn't have one. Bear spray works on animals. It'll work on humans too. If you really do get into that situation, I carry a knife for, cutting paracord, or if you were to need it in emergency to make a splint or any other number of reasons why you need a knife. And then lastly, for safety, well, of course, a first aid kit, which is still pretty minimal though, like some Band-Aids, some moleskin for blisters, meds. I have kids Tylenol, adult Tylenol, kids ibuprofen, adult ibuprofen, Benadryl for both, some antibiotic ointment that lives in my first aid kit. And then I used to carry a Garmin satellite communicator, but lately the newer iPhones, you can text via satellite messaging. And so I tried that out on my last trip and it worked pretty great. So I would say if I'm really going to be out there, I probably would still bring my Garmin because it has that SOS button on it that will notify search and rescue. But for your average trip that doesn't feel too far out, I don't know that I'll be bringing it anymore.
I know. My husband is such an Android person, and he's like, I might switch to Apple phones just for that. And he's like, but bet you in a few years. He's like, I might just wait it out because we'll see. But that is just like such a fun thing. So if you guys, if anyone has an iPhone, look into if you have that on it. It's awesome.
I believe it's iPhone 15 or newer. Didn't get it. I had to update my phone because I was watching people use it. I'm like, why isn't it just like kind of asks you like, hey, do you want to use messaging via satellite? And my phone was never asking me that question. So I had to update it, and then it works. It's kind of a cool thing. But again, the Garmin is really great because it knows like your exact location. And yeah, I would take that if I was going to be truly out there and maybe wouldn't even see any other people around or really far away from resources. I would probably still take that.
And then if you did just rely on your phone, do you bring like a charging pack for it?
Yes.
As a somewhat crunchy mom, I care about the fibers my kids wear. I haven't switched everything over yet, but the one material I am always looking for is merino wool. It comes from sheep and it's processed into fabric that's naturally quick drying, breathable, and temperature regulating. For base layers, especially ones my kids wear repeat on trips, merino wool is my first choice. So I wanted to tell you all about Wee Woolies. They are a Canadian company that specializes in kids' base layers, making ultra soft wool from New Zealand sheep. Their clothing comes in many fun colors, keeping kids warm when it's cold and cool when it's hot. For Let's Go Outside listeners, use the code Let's Go Outside to get 10% off your next Wee Woolies order. The link is in the show notes. I get asked quite a bit about the gear that we use while on international trips, especially about our lightweight playpen that we use. We'll bring that into the rock climbing crag or hike it into a beach and really use it for daytime naps anywhere. And so I put together a travel gear list, and I'm really hoping that this doesn't just cover like basic things that you would find on any travel list, but it's unique to the fact that these are specific things that might not be deemed as travel. And they are things that we have used over the last 5 years of traveling with our kids. So I've also included my kids' favorite activities for the plane and for road tripping as well. We have been really enjoying house sitting lately, and so I also put all the details in there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, it is all linked in the show notes, so you'll find the link there.
Any more thoughts on what you would pack?
No, we covered quite a bit of it. I think some like kid specific things. There's a lot of really cool things out there for kids, like the Morrison outdoor sleeping bags. So that's like a safe sleep option for kids. They're like wearable sleeping bags. They come in a 20-degree and a 40-degree option. That was really awesome to discover when we were having little babies.
I haven't heard of that, so that's great.
Really? Oh my gosh, no,
Yeah.
they're super cool. And they're like down, they're really warm, sometimes too warm.
Okay.
So I have to like really be careful about like what they're wearing underneath.
Is it like a sleep sack situation?
Yes.
And does it have arms on it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's literally like down insulate. Like they're so nice. And
Okay.
actually it was such a joke for so long. I'm like, I want one of these. And then they started making like bigger kid and adult versions of these like wearable sleeping bags that are fantastic. So
See, I've seen those.
Too.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Okay.
And then I'm trying to think what else we do for kiddo specific items. That one is huge. The other thing we do, so with my 4-year-old, instead of packing like his whole own setup, we have a double sleeping pad and we use a quilt. And so that cuts down on weight in that it's like me, my husband, and our kiddo can all use like the same double setup under the quilt. And we all stay really toasty warm that way. So it's kind of like a hack for not having to bring like everybody has their own sleeping bag, everybody has their own sleeping pad. We use a double.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay. What about packing your pack? How do you kind of distribute weight? How do you make sure if you fall in a creek while you're crossing it that it doesn't get wet, or if there's like this crazy rainstorm in the mountains? Yeah. Would you talk a little bit about just pack management?
Yeah. So there are so many amazing videos out there on how to pack a pack, but I will run down it pretty quickly. But it's great because you get the visual too, like literally just YouTube how to pack a backpacking pack. But basically you want to put heavier stuff on the like really close to your body and towards the middle of the pack, so it's like as close to your core as possible. So typically like your sleep setup goes on the bottom, your sleeping bag, then your pad, then your pillow. And these are also things you're not going to use until you get to camp. And then a lot of people will just go ahead and attach their tent to the bottom of your pack. Or if you're splitting it with an adult, like the tent pieces, someone has the poles that can go on like the inside outer portion of your pack. Someone has the tent body that's kind of in the bottom area of your pack. And then in the middle, you're going to have your heavier stuff, which is usually food. If you need a bear can, that's going to take up a huge portion of your pack. Like dishes, fuel kind of goes in the middle along with your water filter, which is something else I always pack. You know, either like a gravity filter, a pump, Steri pen are some of the options to make sure you're drinking clean water. And then the clothes, kind of like I stick clothes wherever I can, just kind of around things or in some of the zippered pockets. Every pack's a little different, but there on the Gregory, there's like some side zippers. I'll stick clothes and underwear and socks in. And then towards the top is really where you want things that you might need. So on the top, like of the main body of the pack, I'll put like my first aid kit, maybe our food bag that has like snacks available, those types of things. My rain shell, just in case it starts raining, I can get to it pretty quick. And then at the very top of your pack, it's often called the brain, like that goes over the body and kind of clips in. I'll keep things like my phone, my headlamp, lights, paracord, knife, like kind of all the odds and ends, toiletries, everything that you really don't need floating around like in your big pack goes kind of in the top there. But as far as keeping it dry, I usually have a waterproof stuff sack for my sleeping bag. And wherever the sleeping bag lives in my pack, I try to make sure the stuff sack is waterproof in case I fall in a river, like you said, because there's not a lot you can do if you fall in a body of water. For rain, a lot of packs come with a rain cover that actually is really effective. I've never had one not work for rain. So you can it goes around the whole thing. It's usually elastic and they come in different sizes. You just put it over your pack. If you don't want to do that, many people will just line their pack with a trash bag. That's a very cheap, excellent option to keep all your things dry. Or like if you don't have a waterproof stuff sack, just stick it in a garbage bag, your sleeping bag, that is. Because in my mind, I'm always thinking worst case scenario, right? Like, could we live if our clothes get wet? Yeah, but we need somewhere warm and dry to sleep when temperatures drop. So priority being that sleeping bag stays dry.
That's good. I think you did a really good job of verbally explaining it when we can't see you, or maybe if someone's listening to this, I think you did an awesome job
Thank you. I mean, we're so lucky, right? In the age of connectivity where you can literally just Google like how to pack a backpacking bag and you get some really great options, but that's the general overview of it and how we do it. The other thing that's really helpful, as you go more, you put the things in the same spot. So it just becomes, when you get to camp backpacking, a lot of times it is just like this gear explosion and it looks like a yard sale and like, where is everything? But if you're putting things in the same spot every time, or like when we unpack the tent and then we unpack everyone's sleeping bags and pads, we have a bag that holds all the bags, because when you go to pack it up, you're like, where's my sleeping bag? These things just like disappear, right? So if you're putting them in the same place, in the same system every time, it really helps streamline the process. And then you're not just spending like half your trip looking for stuff. And that's something I've developed over time, of just like everything goes in the same place every time so that I know where it is and where it goes, or if it's missing, if I haven't packed it.
That's a brilliant point. I love that. That's so good. I think I probably have just done that subconsciously, just because I'm like, oh, my pack fits this well right here. And yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's good. You get to know your pack as you do it more.
Yes. And it is a process, and you kind of learn these things as you go.
So I get a lot of questions about how babies sleep in tents and how I have managed this, or how different people manage this in the backcountry. I know you have a fresh baby, and I know you've done this with all your babies, it sounds like. And so if you would speak to this, I think that people would love to hear it from you.
Full disclaimer in that I have done it both ways, as far as very safe sleep and then what would not be considered safe sleep from like the American Academy of Pediatrics. So I try to be really careful about what I advise or recommend if it's not safe sleep. So with Hudson, who's now my 4-year-old, I really was on a safe sleep journey. So when we did backpack with him, he had his own, there is something called a Kidco pod, or I think Juvie makes one as well. It's like almost like this little tent that you put in your tent, and it's like a little pod, and that's their own little area. And I would put him in there either on like a foam pad or a piece of that Reflectix in his wearable sleeping bag, and he had his own area, so like our sleeping bag didn't get pushed over his face or no one rolled over on him or anything like that when he was really little. And it really was peace of mind for when babies are really little. I'd say like 3 months or less. They have their own space. And we'd put him up kind of by our heads so we could hear him or have access. And that's how we did it for a very long time. Once they're over 15 months, I think, the recommendation is after 15 months, they can sleep on an air mattress. We really did kind of move to the like just having them with us on the air mattress or like the double sleeping pad. And I did a really long trip with my friend where I just packed an extra large single pad, and me and my toddler just shared it the whole time. And we shared a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad. So it just kind of comes down to parental comfort. And if you're a heavy sleeper and worried about that, I would definitely recommend having them have their own space. If you co-sleep at home anyway, and that's what your baby's used to, it definitely can make it easier. I mean, if you're breastfeeding, which with my daughter, I am, so she'd just be right there. I can breastfeed her if she wakes up. She goes back to sleep. And sometimes that's the only way anyone gets any sleep. The other thing is, a lot of times backpacking, there isn't a lot of sleep happening. I definitely, in the middle of the night, I'm like, we're never doing this again. And the morning comes and, you have some magical outside moments and you're like, oh yeah, no, this is the best. And I always say, hold out for the second night, right? 'Cause sometimes the first night is the worst. And then by the second night, everyone's so tired, like the sleep is better. So just hold out for that second night.
That's exactly what I say. I love that you say that. I'm always like, it has to be a 2-night trip. We're not going back after the first night.
Yeah, but I mean, also just understanding that no one's pulling this off flawlessly. Like, I've had poop explosions in the middle of the night, like you said, or someone wetting the sleeping bag, which is like literally the worst thing in my mind that could possibly happen. We've had someone spitting up, throwing up, like so many different things. And there are times where you're just like, why do we do this to ourselves? We could be in an RV somewhere, or just like in a really nice hotel with all the amenities. And so I definitely do question that. I've definitely been known to be like, we're never doing this again. And of course, that still is what I want to do every weekend. So if you're having a hard time, rest assured, everyone has a hard time.
It is how it goes. Somehow we're still out there being crazy people.
Exactly. And I always say, like, I truly do believe the benefits outweigh cons. It's always worth it. Yes, it can be a disaster. Yes, it can be so much work, or it can be a lot of things, but I always come back like wanting more and wanting to go back out and all of those things.
Yeah. It's so good. Okay, let's jump back to you had mentioned about your friend's tip about handing out candy after the 15 mark. What are some other tips you have for hiking with toddlers or little kids that just flat out refuse or just can't hike any longer? What do you do and what does that look like for you?
So I think you really need to first and foremost define your goals. So thoroughly define your why. Why do you want to backpack? Why do you want to hike? Is this like so your kiddo can just experience nature and you're just out there for a child-led hike and you're going to follow their lead, and when they're done, you stop and go back? Great. Like there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Keep doing that. Follow your kiddo's lead, lean into that if that is your goal. If your goal is to hopefully go on big adventures, longer mileage, and you're really are kind of drawn to those bigger adventures and wilder places, then it is a little bit of a different mindset in preparing your kids. Like nothing happens accidentally. Like my kids aren't able to hike long miles because like I willed it to happen. It was a goal that I had and we had to work on it. So that looks like a lot of day hikes, even just as early as 3. I've had Hudson wearing a backpack. It doesn't have anything in it other than like rocks he collects along the way, but he got used to wearing a backpack. And it is employing a lot of different tactics, figuring out what works or speaks to your child. My kiddo is very motivated by like treats, candy, and then like little presents like toy cars. He loves those little like Matchbox race cars, and those are super easy to bring. So I'll bring like a brand new one and be like, when we get to camp, you get this, and kind of those little things. Bubbles. There's, if you're not into candy, or you're trying to avoid that, there's a variety of different things that you can motivate your kids with. Little games like, the setting the timer, and if you're still hiking, you get a treat. But mostly it's just time and consistency for them to understand that this is part of their life, this is what you're going to do. And if they truly sit down and melt down, like let's try to get behind the why. Are they hungry? 9 times out of 10, they just need a snack. Sit down, take the packs off, get them like a solid snack, take like 5 to 10 minutes, and then, kids are like ready to run around again. I can't tell you the amount of times I've gotten to camp with a kiddo that's like, I can't walk any further. And then, 5 minutes later, they're literally doing laps, like zooming around the tent. So it's usually just taking a minute, taking lots of breaks, not rushing it, giving yourself so much time, more time, double the time than you think you need to get to your destination, an abundance of patience. And I have a rule of like, I never take my kids' pack and I never pick them up after a certain point. So if they really think that they have an out, like, oh, you're going to carry me or you're going to take my pack, they will use that phone a friend option. So from the beginning, it's always been like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. We can take a rest. We can take a break, but we got to keep going. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel. It definitely doesn't happen overnight. You have to practice for sure, or go on those practice hikes or singing songs, those types of things to distract them, telling stories. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. Where are you at these days with your family? Like, how big of a trip would you plan? How long of a hiking day do you have?
So my little guy, he's 4. He's probably our limiting factor because baby, I'm carrying her, so she can go however long I can carry her. So right now, I probably wouldn't plan more than a 7-mile-a-day trip for Hudson, who is 4. And that being said, that's not where we started. We started with smaller trips. So he showed us pretty early on that he could walk like 2 or 3 miles when he was 2 and 3. Last year he was 3, and when he turned 4, he went on a bigger trip. He did like 6 miles one day, 7 miles the next. It took us a really long time, but I think that's where we're going to stick it, because he probably could go more, but then you run into the like, yes, he could do it, but he's going to be miserable. So you want to keep that fun factor in there. You want them to want to backpack and hike. So to keep it fun and to keep it manageable, I would say 6 to 7 miles a day is our max right now.
That's good. I like that. That's encouraging to hear. I think my kids can hike a lot farther than they make it out to be right now, but I think right now they're just bored, honestly. And so I get bored too on the trail. So I think it's just, snacks, making games, talking to each other, and exactly what you said. I thought that was really good.
Well, and finding what they're into. So my 4-year-old right now is obsessed with bugs, which is horrifying because I am not a fan, but he loves them. Like he's fearless. He'll just go and pick up like spiders, big beetles. So we have a bug box. And so now every time we go hiking, I'm like, but there'll be bugs. It's like this bug mission. We're looking for bugs on the trail, So we've leaned into that. And it works. It's effective. He loves it. And we come home with our bug box that has bugs in it.
That's a beautiful mom sacrifice. I love that. Okay, so when you're looking for a route or like a hike, I mean, I guess two questions, I guess. One, where are you getting your inspiration or how are you planning your trips? And number two, do you have any recommendations for people that want to find a backpacking trip? Where's a good place to start?
Yeah, I mean, again, the internet is like a wonderful resource. I do not like All Trails for like maps or like accurate mileage, but All Trails has great ideas as to like what's
Uh-huh.
in your area, and it's very quick because you can literally like set like what type of activity you want to do, where you are, and it'll spit out a bunch of options for you. And then I would recommend taking that option and like researching it elsewhere. I've been lied to by All Trails many a times. But yeah, as far as anyone starting out, I would say start small, smaller than you even think. Like do a backyard camp if you have never camped, right? Start with a day hike and you pack a picnic and see how everyone does with that. And then for your first backpacking trip, you want it to be bailable. If things really hit the fan, you need to be able to pack out. So like 2 miles, 3 max, something that you can very easily get out of if you need to. And then it's confidence building. So if it goes really well, great, you're ready to kind of scale up a little. But chances are you'll find that you forgot something vital oftentimes. And, you got to feel for how you sleep in a tent, how you sleep on your gear, what you might do different with a very low risk situation. But yeah, I would say All Trails, even just looking on Instagram, Facebook groups. There's so many mom Facebook groups in specific areas, and just ask. People will tell you for sure. I mean, I'm part of like an Idaho hiking and backpacking group, so I get ideas for Idaho trails all the time, and that has been big inspiration. No matter where you are, I think Washington State coast is like the best first backpacking trip you can go on. It's easy. You camp in sand and the ocean's there. It's really hard to mess up the beach with kids. So I'm always a fan of doing the beach for your first backpacking trip.
I love that idea. That's awesome. I feel like that doesn't come to mind first for me because we live so far away, but I love that. That's great. And
And I'm
so,
like a little biased because it was like our kids' first backpacking trip. And so it was so magical. And like that's what I fell in love with was how magical it was and how they loved it so much. And so yeah, we usually try to get back to the coast a lot.
that's so good. I feel like outdoors is just so sentimental to us, you find your people and you're like, outdoors is what I care about.
Yeah,
Memories are attached to that.
absolutely.
Okay. What would you say to a mom who wants to go on maybe her first solo backpacking trip or something with a new baby, but feels intimidated or unsure about that?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit earlier on is kind of let your mind go to like the worst case scenario. Like if you're afraid or anxious, like let's go there. Like what are you afraid of? Are you afraid, of the animals? Great. Research what animals are in the area and research like what you might need. Like I said, like bear can to keep your food safe and not attract bears to the area, bear spray. If you're afraid of just people, maybe go with a friend, go to a well-traveled trail, like kind of build up your tolerance for that so that your first experience is a good one and then you can kind of build on that. And my other piece is just to go, just go, just do the thing, get out there and experience it because I think we can hold ourselves back a lot. And once you kind of go, it's less scary.
That's good. I love that. I love that so much. Okay, I'm going to ask you the last questions as we close out that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast. Would you share about one of your favorite moments with your kids outside?
Yeah, so we've been really lucky. We do a lot of really cool trips, but one that sticks out is we did the W Trek in Patagonia. And I had my teenager with me, and at that point, my 4-year-old was still pretty little. I think he was 2. I was carrying him and we kind of got a late start one morning, and the middle of the W is like you hike to it and then you have to hike back out. There's nowhere to stay like in the middle. It's just a viewpoint. And I really wanted to get there and we were kind of like running up against time. We had to set our turnaround time that like by this time, if we're not there, we need to turn around, and we're going and I'm going really slow. And my teenager was like, look, mom, just let me take Hudson and like we can hike fast so we can get there. And so we like got there and we're like we had like 6 minutes to spare. We made it, but we wouldn't have made it if my teenager hadn't have like taken him and literally hauled up the trail. We were moving, all because it was my dream. I wanted to do the W, I wanted to do the whole W and wanted to see this viewpoint, and it was so beautiful. And it was just so magical just to see him, like, kind of everybody pitch in towards this goal that was my dream, but they really kind of bought in and helped me achieve it. And it was just very, very sweet and heartwarming moment. It's one of my favorites.
That's so incredible. Wow, your kids coming together. I love that. Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
it was very special.
You're never going to forget that.
No.
What's one unique tip you have for moms who want to explore more?
So I had to think about this, but I think there's this tendency to be like, oh, I'm going to wait until my kids are older and like they can walk on their own. And maybe I'm going to wait until they're not so small, they can carry their own gear, yada, yada. And I would absolutely say, do not do that. You need to go now. You need to go while they're little. Well, they don't have opinions, because the lie is that, yeah, I'll wait till they're older. Well, when they're older, they don't want to go. They've got friends, they've got sports, they've got, movies and whatever else, the pool with their friends, teenagers, boyfriends, whatever it is, they don't want to do it. So I am so thankful. I mean, I really pushed the limit with my two oldest and drug them everywhere all the time. And I am so happy that I did, because now, my oldest has a job and he has a girlfriend, and like, yes, we still get to go, but it is not nearly as much as we used to be able to go, because it's very age appropriate. He has other interests. He's becoming his own person. But I am just so thankful that we started them young and we went when they were little. So I'd say go now, start them young. Don't wait.
That's so good. That's so good. I think that's good for moms with younger kids to hear from you.
Yeah, because there is this illusion that you have time, and you do. But yeah, if you wait, you're going to be up against other challenges that honestly feel harder to overcome than literally just strapping my baby to me and like dealing with diapers. Like, I can do that.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing all of this, Stephanie. I just love hearing this from you. And I wanted someone else to come on and share about this, because this is stuff that I do know about, but I'm not always the best teacher, but I thought you shared this so clearly and well. So thank you for coming on here. And you are just so knowledgeable about this. So I'm so thankful to hear from you. But would you please share how people can follow along, get connected with you? And I know that you offer lots of trips. So yeah, if you wanted to speak to any of that, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I can literally talk about backpacking with kids all day. So this was a really big treat for me too. You can find me mainly on my Instagram. I'm the backpacking mom. And yes, I do run trips. I have some trips running right now. I'm going back to the French Polynesia with Eleanor. I'm doing a women's trip. We're going to swim with whales. I am so excited. That's in October. And then I'm going to Nepal. We're going to do Everspace camp and also summit a Himalayan. And that is not just for women. I'm actually taking my oldest with me. I am so excited about that trip. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a mom and kid yurt trip winter 2026. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So that's all in the works.
Okay. I love that. So we can find that all on your Instagram.
Yes. Yeah, and I am, I think people don't always want to reach out, or they think I won't see it, but DM me anytime with any questions. I love talking about backpacking, love helping people get out there. So don't worry, just send me a message and I'll usually get back to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Looking forward to connecting more with you online.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Just wanted to say huge thanks for listening along today. I really hope that you found this podcast helpful, encouraging, inspiring, and I really want to make outdoors approachable for everyone. I want everyone to know that you can be an outdoorsy family, no matter where you are and what your life is like. We can do it together. And so thank you for being here. I have one request for you, and it is if you would please go to wherever you're listening to this podcast. If it is on YouTube, if it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anything else, would you please go and leave a review for me and a star rating if that's a possibility? That would be so amazing. It really helps the podcast get to more families and more people, and it's just a huge way that I feel loved. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a beautiful day.